So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ambassador Dr. Froilan D. Mobo from the Philippines. I'm presently working from the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy as the Assistant Director for Research and Development. And the same time, I'm also working as the Editor-in-Chief at the International Journal of Multidisciplinary Applied Business and Business Education. So I'm here. I was given a task for today, of course, to be the chair of this session track. So let us start with the first paper. The paper is entitled "The Usage of Metamorphical Expression in Ruskin Band Stories." So this paper was authored by Dr. Rehandra Kunmar, assistant professor from Government Degree College of India. So you are given, sir, between 8 to 10 minutes to present your paper. So you may start now to share your presentation, sir.
Dr. Rajendra Kumar, are you present here? Sir, I think he is not present here.
Okay. So we'll just move on the next presenter. And thus, Sir Muhammad Iqbal Paray and Dr. Munija Khan are present here. Hello. Hello, sir. Hello, Dr. Khan and Sir Paray. Their paper is entitled "Disability Studies in Humanities: A New Edition in Literacy Theory." Are you present here, sir? Are you here?
No, sir, he is not present here. Both of them are not present here. I think Jay Sri Chirag Mehta is present here.
Yeah. I think we'll just I think we'll just go with the next presenter who is present here. So we'll just go with
Yes,
Miss
sir.
J. Sri Chirag Mehta. Their paper
Yes,
is
sir, I'm
yeah.
here. Am I audible to all?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
ma'am. So, ma'am, you
Okay,
can present
sir.
now your paper. You are
Yes.
given 8 to 10 minutes to present your paper, ma'am. The time
Okay, sir.
starts now.
I want to share the screen. May I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Uh, just a minute. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
It's
you.
visible.
Okay. So, good afternoon to all the dignitaries and participants. I'm Jayashree Mehta from Charusat University, and I'm working as an assistant professor in Charusat University in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, and in Gujarat. My research paper title is "The True Feminism in Post-Independence Indian English Poetry." So my this is my research is a genuine effort to study and discuss the waves of social rebel and a feministic approach against inhumanity and social cultural convention deeply embedded in the poems of the selected women poets Kamla Das, Gauri Deshpande, and Yush D. Souza. So, since patriarchy is a symbol of the imposed tradition, culture, and power, which mostly affects women, the feminism is an intellectual commitment to the society to support and elevate the condition of women in the society. In pre-independence era, the initiation of feminism in the poetry was done by male poets and influential figures like Henry L.V. Divarasio and Raja Ram Mohan Rai. They both wrote poetry, formal letters, articles to abolish social evils like sati pratha and child marriage, and promoted the awakening in the society against this cruelty to the women. But in the research, this research presents actually the overall impact of the feminist poetry of different style, and on the their impact on the present day society. In spite of all favorable policies and campaign like women empowerment, save girl child, free education for single girl child, the deep but the deep patriarchy and that affects the women condition in the society in various ways, and the one sided subjugation converted into conflicts. Since the women became aware of their rights as a result of education, but the scenario could not be changed. So this is the patriarchy as a background of feminism, as I have discussed. Since the culture, our culture is like that, so patriarchy is the background of the feminism, and feminism is the opposition of the patriarchy somehow. And the seed of feminism in pre-independence Indian English poetry, I have discussed that Henry L. V. Thoreau and Raja Ram Mohan Roy already they had written poetries and the formulators and articles and to abolish social evils. And Indian English poetry by Indian women in post-independence epoch is the selection of, in my research, it is the selection of three poets who are Kamala Das and Gauri Deshpande and Eunice D'Souza. So these are the women poets who have the eminent presence in the Indian English poetry, and they have given their feministic approach through their poems. The shades of feminism in the poems of eminent women poets of post-independence English in poetry, and this I'm going to discuss that what is there.
Excuse me, ma'am. I think your
Yes.
paper is not moving on the succeeding slides. If you can just go through with your slides so that we can see your the contents of your paper. You cannot really see the contents.
Can you see the slides moving?
It's not moving, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Let me check. Now, can you see the slides? It's moving?
No,
We
ma'am.
cannot see. No, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't know why it is not moving. Okay, I'm trying my best, but I don't know why it is not moving. Okay, I'm trying again.
Yeah, just share it again.
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay. Okay, can you see my slides now? It's moving?
Yeah, it's moving.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have introduced myself already, and now I have introduced my research title also. Then I'm moving to the background of the research, that is the patriarchy as a background of feminism. So I would like to repeat a little bit, since patriarchy is a symbol of the imposed tradition, culture, and power, which mostly affects women, and the feminism is an intellectual commitment to the society to support and elevate the condition of women in the society. This is the opposition to the patriarchy, as I would say. In pre-independence era, the initiation of feminism in the poetry was done by male poets and influential figures like Henry L. V. Thoreau and Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and they both wrote poetry, formulated letters and articles to abolish social evils like sati pratha and child marriage, and promoted the awakening in the society. So this research presents the overall impact of the feminist poetry of different styles on the present day society in the poems of eminent poets of post-independence Indian English poetry, who are Kamla Das, Gauri Deshpande, and Eunice D'Souza. The comparative study of the poems of the three women poets in the context of different styles to reflect feminism and the overall impact of the poems of the three poets on the society will be discussed in the paper. Now, the rationale of the research is the present day scenario, which ignited a flame inside the researcher, that is in me, that conflicts in interpersonal relationship between man and women. As a result, the core institution of Indian society, family, is jeopardized. And it is true, as a basic unit of the society, the family is jeopardized due to the conflicts between men and women. And the women's psychology which is presented in the poems of these poets will really help, in my view, they will really help to give an insight to the society to maintain the decorum of the family and maintain the peace in the society, and grow the men and women together in a full-fledged manner. So increasing crime rate against women. Yes, this is the lack of understanding, lack of gender sensitivity, and modern women are misunderstood and are tagged as characterless when they cross their conventional limits, which are decided by the patriarchal society. So, and they are always seen as a commodity that should not happen. That the voice of women for women is missing, and somehow the women are they became little sensitive towards the problem of other women. So this, the research will try to sensitize the whole society towards the women's psychology. Prevalent belief that marriage is the final destination of a girl or woman, and this is really tragic for a woman when the people decides their destination. They decide their destination as a marriage in their life, and they are limited to the aim, that is the wedding to a best person or best suit in their life. To study and analyze the poems of selected women poet in post-independence Indian English poetry, this is the objective of my research, a primary objective. So the poems of these three poets will be studied in detail and analyzed, and to volumize the feminism as an antidote to mitigate excess of patriarchy. Yes, anywhere when the feminism will be elevated, the patriarchy will be reduced anyhow, and this will be creating a balance between men and women position in the society. So to create sensitivity towards the fourfold development of the women: physical, emotional, social, and intellectual, by highlighting the women's psychology in the poems of selected women poets. These are the objective of the research. The next is the research gap to be filled. There has been a variety of researches about the feminism and women poets in Indian English poetry, but very few studies found on the relevant problems of women through the comparative study of the poems of women poets. So therefore, more comprehensive research is required to explore and discuss the impact of women poets' voice in the post-independent epoch on the present society. How their rebellious and confessional poems generate collective consciousness for an attitudinal transformation in the present society rather than a superficial and utilitarian change. So this is a very important issue, and this research gap to be filled, and the researcher has tried that. That means I have tried my best to fill that gap so that the women's psychology will be discussed in detail, and due to that, an attitudinal transformation will be seen in the society, because the collective consciousness will be developed in the people, the readers, and different people who will be benefited with this research. So significance of the research will be the thorough comparative study of the poems of the selected women poets, and it is possible to explore and understand the women's psychology, which can bridge the different thoughts, ideas, and insights to create a gender sensitivity in the present society. The research can significantly help counselors educators, policymakers, social reformers, and NGOs. And above all, it is beneficial to the women of the world to understand their priorities in the current context. So when they will be knowing each other, even they will be thinking and introspecting to themselves, it is really necessary
Excuse me,
to study. Yes, sir.
can you conclude now your presentation? It's all you already have 10 minutes. Can you
Okay,
conclude
sir.
there?
Yeah, I'm sure. So this is the comparative study of selected women poets. They have three styles. So they are actually coinciding in their styles. They have confessional styles, loquacious, and rebellion style. And I'm concluding, this is the last slide. So finally, the study finds that the selected women poets have represented the true feminism by depicting suffocation of women shackled by the patriarchy. And further, it is clearly seen by studying and analyzing the women poets of different origins that irrespective of difference in origin, the condition of the women is same in the society. So these three poets, Kamala Das and Kore Deshpande and Eunice D'Souza, they are from different origin, but they have discussed they portray the same condition of the women, the same suffocation in their poems. So it is seen that the origin, irrespective of the origin, the difference of the origin doesn't matter. The condition of the woman is same in the society. The study concludes that the study of the poems of the women poets and the post-independence epoch gives an understanding of the women's psychology to improve the interrelationship between male and female, and in long term leads to an attitudinal transformation in the society, and also helps to elevate the level of gender sensitivity. So thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask.
I have a question, ma'am. With That's
Yes,
a
sir.
good presentation. With regards to your presentation, is there any basis for policy formulation as part of your probably a recommendation in your research? Since you're pertaining that uh, to a woman law, am I right?
Yeah.
I- Is this a basis
So
for?
can you repeat the question, because somehow the
Do you have
accent little
do you have
difficult for me to understand.
Do you have any plans to uh, create a policy formulation regarding your topic as part of your recommendation? If there is a part that you can use that,
Yeah, policymaker I have used. You are talking about that?
yeah.
Yeah. So policymaker means, you see, here in our government, also in India, it is recommended that 33% of reservation of women it's required. It is done. But I would say, okay, actually it is not implemented. What it is on the papers, I would say, and it is in the air only. I would say it doesn't have any concrete background. So if the policy makers can understand the women's psychology, that they are still in the shackles, if they have made some laws or some legislatures on the papers, it will not work. So the women's psychology is explained, the portrayal of women's psychology in these poems, we can understand that still they are under subjugation. So they have to look into this, and the policymakers will really is benefited with this research, because they will understand, okay, here women are still under subjugation. They are their roles are narrowed down, and they are subordinated. So they should be coming forward to express their views. So why they are not coming? Because they have to read these kind of poems and their poems analysis, so they will be inspired to express their opinions also. So most of the women are taking it as a destiny, and they don't speak up. So when this kind of research will come into the air, and they will see everything, okay, yes, the women voice are there for women, so they will also be inspired. And I hope for the best change after this research.
Yeah, I think that's one of your good recommendation that this will be the start of a basis for policy formulation in the future, maybe. I think that will be the
Yes, sir.
start.
And again, I would say that when women are, they are permitted to go out of the home and they are working. But again, it is a utilitarian change because they need money. It is not a attitudinal change, I would say, because the attitudinal change will give a good environment. It is again suffocating environment because they are taking care of home and the working area as well, but they are not getting a good environment from their surrounding people. So I would like to tell here that we need to change the attitude. The utilitarian change will not work. The superficial change will not work. But the attitudinal change will work that gives an identity, a self respect to the women. So, this is my idea behind this research.
Yeah. So thank you for that sharing, ma'am. Thank you. That's
Thank
a
you, sir.
wonderful. Thank you. Can we
Thank you,
move
sir.
now on the next presenter?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
think.
Mohammed Iqbal Pari is here, so I welcome him to present his paper.
Yes, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're
sir.
audible.
Hello and good afternoon to everyone. I am Mohammed Iqbal Pare, a research scholar at Islamic University of Science and Technology, and my topic today is Disability Studies in Humanities, a new edition in literary theory. So I'll start from the introduction. Disability studies is an area of study that pursues disability in the context of social, cultural, political, legal, psychological, and economics through different perspectives ranging from various areas of knowledge. Research in the field is usually interdisciplinary, thus covering all the aspects of identity of the disabled people. Before we trace the historical development of the disability studies, the definition of disability is imperative here. According to Oxford English Dictionary, disability is number one, a lack of ability to discharge any function or office related functions, inability, incapacity, or weakness. Number two, a physical and mental condition that limits a person's movement, senses, activities, or the fact or state of having such a condition. Number three, incapacity in the eye of the law or created by the law, a restriction framed to prevent any person or class of persons from sharing in duties or privileges which would otherwise be open to them. The first definition hints towards what is known as individual model of disability, where a disabled person is blamed for his condition as being unfortunate and tragic, while as the second definition alludes to what is known as medical model of disability, which believes eliminating or removing disability through medical intervention or normalizing or enhancing a person's capabilities or functions to that of a normal person, and the third one reflects of the restrictions that are imposed on disabled people through law and rules governed by the jurisprudence. So, historical background of the disability studies. Disability movement got impetus from the civil rights movement in America and shared its ideas with the other movements like gay, feminism, and Afro-American. The movement began in 1960s when many disabled people gathered to protest against the injustice and the discrimination against disabled. The movement reached its zenith in 1970s when the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 was signed, which paved way for many developments for the disabled people. The Rehabilitation Act was instrumental in protecting the economic security and banning the discriminatory and biased behavior towards disabled people in America. According to Nick Watson, disability activists from European to American countries started lobbying for shift in the conceptual understanding of disability. They believed that disability should not be seen as medical or individual problem anymore, but must be seen as political and social construct. In 1972, Paul Hunt invented invited different disabled people to join the Union of Physically Impaired Against Segregation, which is an organization for the disabled people. The movement was eventually formed by him and Vic Finkelstein. The movement was, unlike many disabled organizations, political in nature and proved to be a watershed development in disability studies. The movement changed the definition of disability from that of an individual and medical model to the social construct. The movement differentiated between the impairment and disability. According to UPIAS, Union of Physically Impaired Against Segregation, impairment is a lacking part of or all of a limb or having a defective limb or organism or mechanism of body, and the disability is the disadvantage or restrictions of activity caused by contemporary organization, which takes no or little account of people who are impairment and thus exclude them from the mainstream of social activities. They also negated judgment or expert view of people who prescribe disabled how to lead life. American with Disability Act of 1990 or ADA was another landmark development for disabled community. The law safeguards the civil rights of the disabled and also has provisions for the protection from discrimination to the American with disabilities. The law protects jobs and bans any kind of discrimination towards any disabled employee from the boss in any service sector. It is similar as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which criminalized discrimination based on race, religion, sex, national origin, and sexual orientation. Disability studies is a young and emerging field of study, emerging in 1980s in the US and UK. The first US disability program commenced from Syracuse University, and the first edition of Disability Studies Reader was published in 1997, edited by Leonard J. Davis. In 2005, MLA established disability studies as a division of study, and soon disability-related programs were started in many countries across the globe like Australia, Germany, Norway, and New Zealand. It's not like disability was never studied, but it was clinical or medical field which practiced medical ways to cure the afflicted and deemed it fit that it was the society that was disabling the impaired bodies through negative imagery associating disability with insult, burden, unproductiveness, stigma, and fear. Disability studies mushroomed owing to the world over recognition by leading organizations like World Health Organization Convention on the Rights of the People with Disabilities. All the hard work came fruition with the publication of seminal texts that directly challenged and contradicted the traditional view of disability as a medical problem. The text set the field for the social approach of the disability studies. Some of the texts that were published during this period were The Politics of Disablement, Social Work with the Disabled People, Stigma, Experience of Disability, edited by Paul Hunt, and UPAI's Fundamental Principle of Disability, Attitudes and Disabled People. The social approach began to see disability in social barriers, be it economic, attitudinal, cultural, political, and the organizational structure of society that has failed to integrate disabled people. But at the same time, it does not overlook the impairment that can be overcome through medical intervention. In America, the movement gathered the same pace, driven by ADA. Young scholars and researchers in humanities and other subjects started taking keen interest in the social and cultural of disability. Some of the prominent works like Handicapping America by Bow, Enforcing Normalcy by Leonard J. Davis, Extraordinary Bodies by Rosemary Garland Thompson, Narrative Prosthesis and Cultural Location of Disability by Sharon L. Snyder and David T. Mitchell took the literary world by storm with the nuanced analysis of the representation of disability in literary and cultural texts. These texts examine a host of issues related to health, illness, normality, abnormalities, stigma, and female disabled bodies in literature through various approaches, and criticize the ableism that has penetrated very deep in the society like sexism and racism. These texts began to raise the questions over the use of negative language and cultural practices that exclude disabled. Disabled studies in humanities study literary and cultural texts. It examines disability in theme, character, and plot along with its historical development. According to Ellis Hall, disability studies can change the way we look at structure, genre, and narrative form, and these perspectives can bring a fresh wave in the literary criticism and will add a new interesting techniques and perspectives to literary theory that had remained limited to traditional approaches and techniques for a long period. We are living in a world where each of us is affected by illness and horrified by the emergence of new diseases and pandemics, the recent being Ebola, Zika virus, coronavirus, cancer, AIDS. How writers portray the people with disabilities, how stereotyping of ill people or disabled is sustained through literature, and how disabled people act as powerful tool in narration to keep audience engaged are some of the questions that disability studies and humanities pose. Don Godley, in his book Disability Studies, states that disability studies explores the way in which non-disabled people symbolize, characterize, construct, gaze at, project, split off, react, repress, and direct images of impairment and disabilities in ways that subjugate and at times terrorize disabled people. According to Lena J. Davis, the focus of the study of disability studies is not the person with wheelchair or the disabled, but the set of rules, social, historical, economic, and cultural processes that regulate and control the way we think about and think through the body. For Tanya, text is revelatory about discourses that are of ableist subjectivity. Through a particular way, we project the way we society sees disabled. Literature and disability share the centuries long relationship with the disability.
Hi, sir. Excuse me. Can you now conclude your study, sir? It's almost 10 minutes.
Okay, sir. Okay, I'll just. So I'll now move to the conclusion. Disability studies has enriched the literary theory that had remained confined to the traditional approaches. Disability studies ushered a new wave of interdisciplinary research in the literature and brought under scrutiny the issues that had never been examined in literary theory before. Its studies It studies myriad issues that are relevant to health, illness. Modern research is bridging gaps between the different subjects through interdisciplinary research, interpreting and illuminating new issues. We are living in a world of technological advancement surrounded by machines in every sphere of life, and modern problems demand modern way of research. And thus, disability, health, illness, which are apparently a subject of medical professionals, has become an exciting area of research for the scholars in the field of humanities, particularly in literary theory. Disability studies has pushed literary theory in a direction to explore more new issues that had remained hidden for a long due to some dominant theories which hold sway in literary theory and which focused more on forms and structures, neglecting the issues that had mattered equally in a text. Disability studies has opened new ways the way we read novels, dramas, and poetry. Disability studies can also approach a text through intersectional approach, which may not just explain the disability in a text, but also illuminate other marginalities like race, gendered oppression, casteism, and stigma. Uh, in past, most of the Western and the Eastern countries have commenced to provide courses on disability studies at graduate and higher level in humanities and the other areas. Some of the universities that have programs in disability studies are Lancaster University, Liverpool, Hope University, University of Bristol, Stanford University, and University of Texas, Arlington. Thank you, sir.
Okay, yes, thank you. I have some questions, sir. With regards to your research, I'd just like to ask what kind or what type of research design you have used in your study. Is this a qualitative or a mixed method type of research, sir?
Sir, this actually is interdisciplinary research. So, sir, it will be a mixed kind of a research. So I'll be deriving insights from philosophy, from sociology, from different other fields, sir. Wherever I'll feel that the information can be helpful to me in my research. My but my specialized area is actually in humanities. So I am studying those texts through the disability studies perspectives, sir.
And with regards to to the sampling size, what is the sampling size of your study, sir?
So I haven't yet, sir, included it in my research proposal
Okay.
sampling, sir. So, sir, it will be based on the character actually, sir. In
Okay.
humanities, we don't do that kind of a research like sampling or all that. Sir, here it's mostly based on analysis,
Okay.
based on how the characters are represented in a particular text. What was the
So,
intention of a writer behind introducing a disabled character? So it will be based on, sir, that, and also the language that has been used to represent disabled people in that text, sir.
so purely this is just a social science study, right?
Yes,
Purely.
sir. Yes,
So,
sir. It's interdisciplinary, sir.
yeah, international. So, in my own perception, if you can also include, of course, the recommendations, because based on your conclusions, you have your conclusions, but if you have problems that you have met, might as well include also the recommendation as part of the holistic of your research, just to make this is more productive. Just like this is social science research. So if you
Yes,
can
sir.
also include the recommendation in your study, that would be also nice. So I
Yes,
think
sir. Sir, right now I'm thinking about in my I have also framed a chapter based on how the writer should portray disabled, but means how what kind of a language should be acceptable toward disabled people that doesn't discriminate them or that doesn't portray them in a negative portrayal.
yeah, I think that would be all on my part, sir. Thank you for that nice presentation, sir.
Thank you,
Congratulations in
sir.
advance, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So
Welcome.
So now I welcome Riddhi D. Pandey to present her paper.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am,
yes,
you're
ma'am.
audible.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. Give me a moment, please. Is this screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible. You can make it full screen, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, it's visible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Riddhi Pandya, Assistant Professor, Parul University, Vadodara. Today, I'm going to present my paper on the topic, a critical study on identity dilemma of the character Sai in Kiran Desai's The Inheritance of Loss. Kiran Desai is an Indian author born on 3rd September 1971 in New Delhi, India. Her novel Inheritance of Loss won the 2006 Men Booker's Prize and the National Book Critics Circle Fictional Award in Jan 2015. She left India when she was 14 and she and her mother lived in England for a year before moving to United States. Desai became the youngest ever woman to win the Booker Prize at the age of 35. All the characters in the novel are fictional, but in one of her interviews, Desai mentioned that somewhere all the characters are somewhere related to her real life. This is the second novel by Kiran Desai. It was written over a period of 7 years after her first book. Its main theme are migration, living between two worlds and between past and present. The story centers around the lives of few main characters like Biju, Sai, Jimubai Patel. Biju is an Indian living in the United States illegally, son of a cook who works for Sai's grandfather. Sai is an orphan girl living in Kalimpong with her maternal grandfather. The major theme running throughout is the loss of identity and the way it passes through generation is a sense of loss. This novel explores the burdensome themes of cultural and national identity and immigration experiences. The identity crisis in the novel is the key reason for Sai. Her attitude or approach towards viewing cultural and her identity is also the reason for dilemma, with noticeable changes in her behavior. The affected and affective factors are lifestyle, food, festivals, rituals, family, and relationship, which created trauma inside. On the other hand, these traumatic experiences of Sai can also be understood with the following points. Alienation. While analyzing Sai's psychology, this research finds that she is the victim of alienation in Kalimpong because she always talks with Cook, Lola, Noni, Father Putti, and Uncle Botti about their and others' life. She falls in love with Gyan for avoiding alienation. Orphans at a very young age, she is shuttled by fate to live with her stern grandfather, and the romance with Gyan kindles with imagination for a while, but she realized that she must leave her grandfather home before too much time passes. Love and fear. In the inheritance of loss, love, and emotion that entails un, unanticipated ambiguities, the romance of Sai and Gyan, for example, seems promising at first. However, both characters experience misgiving, especially Gyan, who feels his identity as a man is somehow imperiled by his feeling for Sai. Such reservations leads Gyan to betray Sai and her household to his fellow militants. They also hinder a lasting reconciliation of the two after their bitter disputes over running after the West. Next, coming of the age, growing pains. Sai and Gyan undergo a mature process as their romance encounters obstacles and misunderstanding. Kiran Desai portrays the young people tenderly and realistically. Sai, for example, becoming curious about the romantic lives of older people, especially her grandfather, as she tries to understand her own situation. Gyan, in turn, he feels perplexed and conflicted once the initial experiment and mystery of the romance has worn off. In particular, his love for Sai collides and with his wish for manhood, and through tough image as Gorkhaland millet partisan. For some time, Sai and Gyan struggled with feelings, regret, shame, and anger. I'll move to the next point. Cultural expectations. Sai expectations of love being equalizer folds up in the face of hard, unrelenting reality that they cannot be together, as she has lived a life of ease and would never survive the hand scrabbled conditional of Gyan's community. Next, living in two worlds. The character Sai lives in two worlds, in Indian class system and Western world. Every day she straddles these two worlds. In their social interactions, their hopes and dreams, and their expectations. Sai was raised outside of Indian culture, so she is more like Westerners. In her way of thinking and behaving, she accepts all people, even if they are from the lower class, and when she goes to live with her grandfather, she is treated as an outsider. She does not often leave the house and does not feel understood by others until she meets Gyan, whom she treats as an equal even though he is a Gorkha. She also treats the cook as an equal and helps him around the house. She does not try she does not try to fit in with Indian behavior or ideas. She has accepted the Western ways of living and sees it as superior to the Indian way of life. However, by the end of the novel, she understands the power that social class still has over other people, including Gyan. She chose to no longer live in India. To conclude, I would say that the idea of identity crisis that the characters of Desai undergoes, which is reflected in the character of Sai and her attitude or approach towards the culture and her roots. It can also be inferred that social factors such as family and relationships with loved ones or with community suffers and become the center of dilemma created by cultural traumatic experiences. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, ma'am. But I have some comments, ma'am, with regards to your paper. Would hope that you will able to take that as positive. First is, in this institution, are you following the IMRAD format, which is the conference style or the journal publication style, which includes the introductions, the methodology, the results, and discussions, so that we would be able to be guided well. Hopefully that you will follow that the international format that I'm talking about.
I'll do it for sure as this is very first presentation of mine. So I'll definitely take care of it and I'll follow it for sure.
Yes, and another, this is really a good study, but on that part, if you're going to strengthen on the part of the results and discussions, particularly on measuring the capabilities of your study, aligning that to the conclusions, and again, including that with the support of the recommendations for possible future policy making for formulation in the future, I think that would be a good study on your part.
Thank you so much for your suggestions and for your advices. Definitely, I'm going to work on it. Thank you so
Yes.
much. It means a lot.